The Playboy of the Western World is a three-act play written by Irish playwright John Millington Synge and first performed at the Abbey Theatre, Dublin, on the 26th of January 1907. It is set in Michael James Flaherty's public house in County Mayo, on the west coast of Ireland during the early 1900s. It tells the story of Christy Mahan, a young man running away from his farm, claiming he killed his father. The play is known for its use of the poetic, evocative language of Hiberno-English, heavily influenced by the Irish language, as Synge celebrates the lyrical speech of the Irish. Edmund John Millington Synge, the 16th of April 1871, the 24th of March 1909, was an Irish playwright, poet, writer, collector of folklore, and a key figure in the Irish literary revival. His best-known play The Playboy of the Western World was poorly received, due to its bleak ending, depiction of Irish peasants, and idealization of parricide, leading to hostile audience reactions and riots in Dublin during its opening run at the Abbey Theatre, Dublin, which he had co-founded with W. B. Yeats and Lady Gregory. His other major works include In the Shadow of the Glen 1903, Riders to the Sea 1904, The Well of the Saints 1905, and The Tinker's Wedding 1909. Summary. West coast of County Mayo, Christy Mahan stumbles into Flaherty's tavern. There he claims that he is on the run because he killed his own father by driving a loy into his head. Flaherty praises Christy for his boldness, and Flaherty's daughter and the barmaid Pegeen falls in love with Christy, to the dismay of her betrothed, Sean Keogh. Because of the novelty of Christy's exploits and the skill with which he tells his own story, he becomes something of a town hero. Many other women also become attracted to him, including the widow Quinn, who tries unsuccessfully to seduce Christy at Sean's behest. Christy also impresses the village women behest victory in a donkey race, using the slowest beast. Eventually Christy's father, Mahan, who was only wounded, tracks him to the tavern. When the townsfolk realize that Christy's father is alive, everyone, including Pegeen, shuns him as a liar and a coward. To regain Pegeen's love and the respect of the town, Christy attacks his father a second time. This time it seems that old Mahan really is dead, but instead of praising Christy, the townspeople, led by Pegeen, bind and prepare to hang him to avoid being implicated as accessories to his crime. Christy's life is saved when his father, beaten and bloodied, crawls back onto the scene, having improbably survived his son's second attack. As Christy and his father leave to wander the world, having reconciled, Sean suggests that he and Pegeen get married soon, but she spurns him. Pegeen laments betraying and losing Christy. I've lost the only playboy of the Western world. The Playboy of the Western World takes place in a run-down pub in the countryside of the northwest of Ireland in the early 1900s. The pub's young barmaid, Margaret Flaherty, better known as Pegeen Mike, is making a list of items she needs for her upcoming wedding to Sean Keogh, her second cousin. When Sean comes into the pub, Pegeen tells him of her worry of being left alone in the pub all night. Her father, the pub owner Michael Flaherty, is going to be at a wake. Sean is too afraid of what the local priest, Father Riley, would think if he were to stay overnight with Pegeen, especially as he needs permission from the priest to approve their wedding between cousins. Pegeen berates him for being so God-fearing, and Sean makes things worse when he lets slip that, on his way over, he heard what sounded like a young man, groaning wicked like a maddening dog, in a ditch. Pegeen is exasperated that Sean was too cowardly to investigate. Soon, Michael Flaherty comes in with his friends, Jimmy Farrell and Philly O'Cullen. The three men are about to go to the wake, an occasion that will last all night and involve a lot of drinking. Pegeen tells her father of her fear of being alone during the night. Michael, Jimmy and Philly try to convince Sean to stay over, who dodges past his future father-in-law and runs out of the pub. Sean soon returns, scared that the man from the ditch is chasing him. That man, Christy Mahan, comes in. He is tired, frightened and dirty, and on the run from the law. Michael, Jimmy, Philly and Pegeen interrogate Christy about the nature of his crime, which he eventually reveals to be patricide, murdering his father. He explains that he killed his father by striking him over the head with a loy when they were in a potato field. Assuming that he must have had good reason to kill the locals are mightily impressed by Christy's courageous deed. Sensing an opportunity, Michael offers Christy the vacant job of pot boy, which will mean Pegeen has someone to keep her safe overnight. Michael, Jimmy and Philly go to the wake. Sean, now worried about Christie's presence in the pub, offers to stay. Pegeen tells him to go on then to Father Riley. Left alone, Christie tells Pegeen more details about his life and the murder of his father, describing a life of rural drudgery and his father's tyrannical character. During this conversation, she calls him handsome, and the two develop an attraction towards each other. Soon enough, Widow Quinn, a 30-year-old woman who killed her husband, arrives at the pub. She has instructions from Father Riley and Sean to take Christie with her back to her house, an idea that Pegeen fiercely resists. The two women squabble over Christie until he eventually insists that he will stay at the pub. Widow Quinn leaves, and Christie, in his first comfortable bed for a long time, feels great luck at his new situation, wishing he had killed his father sooner. Act 2 takes place the next morning. Christie, still thinking about the attentions of Pegeen and Widow Quinn, admires his face in a looking glass. 4 local village girls, Susan Brady, Sarah Tansey, Honor Blake and Nellie McLaughlin, come to the pub, excited to catch a glimpse of the young man who killed his father. Christie tries to hide, but they find him and give him gifts from their farms. They notice the looking glass, which he is trying to hide behind his back, laughing that kills their fathers is a vain lot surely. Widow Quinn comes in and tells the village girls to make Christie breakfast. At Widow Quinn's and the girls' request, Christie tells the story of how he killed his father, using a chicken bone as a theatrical prop and evidently enjoying the attention. Pegeen comes in and shoos Widow Quinn and the girls away. Feeling jealous, she teases Christie by convincing him that the village girls, who she says are often in contact with the peelers, local police might cause the law to come after him. He resigns himself to leaving the pub and moving on, lamenting how he'll not be waking near you Pegeen another dawn of the year till the two of us do arise to hope or judgment with the saints of God. She finally gives in and reassures him that he will be safe at the pub. Sean comes in with Widow Quinn and gets Pegeen out of the pub by telling her that her sheep are misbehaving. With Pegeen out of earshot, Sean offers Christie a one-way ticket to America and his best clothes in exchange for Christie leaving the pub forever, fearing that Christie will get in the way of his marriage to Pegeen. When Christie takes the clothes but refuses the ticket, Widow Quinn hatches a plan with Sean for her to marry Christie in exchange for a reward from Sean consisting of a ram, a cow, and right-of-way across his property. Just as Christie is swaggering around in his smart clothes and enjoying his newfound status, he spots his father, Old Mayen, wounded but not dead, wandering near the pub. Christie frantically hides behind the door as Mayen comes in and asks Widow Quinn if she has seen his son, who he describes as a fool, and the laughing joke of every woman. She buys Christie some time by saying she thinks she saw him heading to the coast to catch a boat, sending Mayen off in that direction. Christie begs Widow Quinn not to tell Pegeen that his father is still alive. She suggests that he marry her instead of pursuing Pegeen, given that they have attempted murder in common, and promises him a good life. Christie is steadfast in his commitment to Pegeen and asks Widow Quinn to help him. She agrees to keep his secret in exchange for provisions from the pub when he marries Pegeen. Act 3 takes place later on the same day. Jimmy and Philly are in the pub discussing Christie's victories at the village games and sports, and point out how often he mentions his murderous act. Just then, Old Mayen returns. He shows the two men his head wound and explains that it was his son who hit him, arousing Philly's suspicion. Widow Quinn enters, shocked to see Mayen again. She tries to convince Jimmy and Philly that Mayen is a madman who, having earlier said that his wound was inflicted by a tinker, changed his story on hearing about Christie Mayen. This persuades Jimmy, but Philly still suspects that Old Mayen might be Christie's father. Mayen hears cheering outside, which Widow Quinn explains is for a young lad, the champion playboy of the Western world. Mayen takes a look outside, sure that the man in question is Christie. Widow Quinn points out that he must be going mad, as he had earlier described his son as a loser, certainly not someone who would be winning the affections of an entire village. Mayen is temporarily convinced that he has gone mad and leaves. Jimmy and Philly go after him. Christie comes in, surrounded by a crowd of admirers including Pegeen and the village girls. The crowd gives him prizes for winning their sports games. Pegeen gets the others to leave so that Christie can have a short respite from their attentions. Christie, buoyed by his success, convinces Pegeen to marry him, using poetic language to conjure an image of their future together. Michael enters, drunk from the wake and supported by Sean. After some hesitation, he is convinced by Pegeen and Christy that they should marry, especially by the thought that his grandchildren will become little gallant swearers, rather than puny weeds, like Sean. Just as Michael joins Pegeen and Christy's hands together to celebrate their engagement, Mayan comes in for a third time, followed by the crowd and Widow Quinn. He runs at Christy and starts beating him. Christy tries to convince everyone that Mayan is a lunatic stranger, but they don't believe him. They quickly turn on him for having deceived them, with Pegeen especially dismayed at Christy for being an ugly liar. Christy, increasingly desperate, chases Mayan out of the pub with Eloy. Outside, he deals him another blow, thinking that this one will be fatal. The crowd, led by Michael, are concerned that Christy has now committed murder within their community, and that this will attract unwanted attention from the peelers, the police. They decide to hang Christy and bind him in rope. Pegeen, still furious, threatens Christy with fire. Christy fights back aggressively and bites Sean's leg. As Christy is being pulled toward the door, old Mayan crawls back into the pub. He asks why Christy is tied up, to which Michael apologetically replies that they have to take care of Christy themselves to ensure the safety of the wider community. Mayan loosens Christy's ropes and insists that his son will be leaving with him. As they leave, Christy states boldly that, from now on, he will be the gallant captain, and his father the heathen slave. Christy wishes blessings on the pub community, saying that he will go romancing through a romping lifetime from this hour to the dawning of the judgment day. With Christy gone, Sean tries to talk to Pegeen about their engagement, but she just hits him around the head. She pulls a shawl over her and breaks out into wild lamentation, crying out after Christy, "I've lost him surely. I've lost the only playboy of the Western world."